It does. Yes! Wow, I am so smart. Hello, YouTube. This is the stream that's going on YouTube. Hi, I hacked the system. Wow. Okay. I don't know much about technology, but I made it work, apparently, and I'm very proud of myself. Okay. So, I wanted to start recording for YouTube before I show off this. So, I decided to, that every time I stream, I'm going to make a drawing based on what I read last time and show that off to start the stream. So here we have, I redrew Dafan Mountain. So that's the recap. Wei Wuxian, the Yiling Patriarch, died, but he got resurrected by Mo Jianyu, who is a gay lunatic. And for commentary, there was me being upset at the author's notes using yaoi terminology. That makes me so upset. I hate reading it. But, is it not? Shit, I don't think I can edit that. Wait, didn't I change it? I thought I changed it. Wait, can I change it right now? I can't change it right now. Okay, hang on. Alright. Okay. There we go. And it has the category set as art because I don't know what else to do. So, I don't know what else I could try to change the category to. Is it changed? Did I successfully change it? Hopefully. I thought I had changed it, but I think I only changed what my tweet said about the stream. You know what I did last time I streamed? It took 5 minutes to do that, by the way. And I thought it was very funny in a very sad way. Anyways, we are doing a recap. Wei Wuxian was re-resurrected by Mo Jianyu, who is a gay lunatic. So Wei Wuxian's like, cool, I get to pretend to be a gay lunatic, that's fun. And then he ended up meeting with Lan Wangji on Dafan Mountain and decided, hey, I'm gonna try and gross out Lan Wangji and Zhang Chang by saying I'm in love with Lan Wangji, that he's my type. But Lan Wangji was into that, so they went back to Cloud Recesses. Wei Wuxian tried again to gross him out by being gay, but Lan Wangji was into it, and he just ended up sleeping on top of him. And thinking about, remember when I first met him? And that's when the flashbacks start. So, that's where we're picking up. I was thinking about what I might draw for the next time, based on this section, and I'm not sure. Maybe the, wait, I don't know what how to pronounce that one fruit. But like, you know, the fruit. Maybe that would be good. And then Zichen being like, oh, did you want some? Like, no, it's not the fruit. Anyways. Yeah, okay. Hello? Why is it just white? Hello? Why isn't it loaded? Why did the page just decide to refresh? Whatever, I guess. Okay. So. We are going to stream, and if my sister gets back to me before I'm done streaming, joining, then she will just become a part of this. And I will probably have to catch her up, but I have watched the Donkwa with her. She should kind of know what's happening. Yeah, okay. So, the start of the flashbacks. At a later time, Wei Wuxian pondered upon the reason why his relationship with Lan Wangji wasn't good. Getting to the root of the matter, everything started when he was 15, coming to Gusu Lan sect with Zhang Chang to study for 3 months. There was a virtuous and prestigious elder in the Gusu Lan sect, Lan Shiren. Everyone in the cultivation world accepted 3 characteristics which described him: pedantic, stubborn, and a strict teacher who produced outstanding students. For a sec, I thought it was like 3 words, and I'm like, that's a sentence. But, although the first 2 points kept a lot of people at a respective distance from him, some even to the point of a secret dislike, the last one made them try everything they could to send their children to study under him. He had brought up quite a number of excellent disciples of the Lan sect. As long as they stayed a few years in his classroom, no matter how pathetically useless they were when they first entered, they would at least seem to be decent when they depart, especially in terms of appearance and etiquette. There were plenty of parents who were so excited that tears flowed down their cheeks when they picked up their sons. To this matter, Wei Wuxian declared, "Do I not seem decent enough as of right now?" Zhang Chang replied with a great deal of foresight, "You'd definitely be a mark of shame in his entire teaching career." In that year, aside from the Yunmeng sect, there was also young masters from other clans sent to study here, parents who heard of their reputation. The young masters were all around 15 or 16. Because the sects all knew the others, although they weren't close, they had seen others' faces before. It was widely known that, although Wei Wuxian's surname was not Zhang, he was the leading disciple of the sect leader in the Yunmeng sect, Zhang Fengmen, and also the son of his friend who had passed away. In fact, the sect leader regarded him as his own child. This, along with how youths were not as concerned with status and ancestry as elders, they were soon friends. Only a few sentences passed, and everyone started to call the others older brothers or younger brothers. Somebody asked, "The Lotus Pier of Zhang sect is much more fun than here, right?" Wei Wuxian laughed. "Fun or not depends on how fun you make it to be. There's definitely less rules than here, and no need to wake up so early." The Gusu Lan sect wakes at 5 in the morning and rests at 9 in the evening, not allowing any delay. Somebody else asked, "When do you guys wake up? What do you do during the day?" Zhang Chang humphed. Him? He wakes at 9 in the morning and sleeps at 1 at night. When he wakes up, he doesn't practice his sword or meditate. He goes boating, swims around, picks lotus seed pods, and hunts for pheasants. Wei Wuxian replied, "No matter how much pheasants I hunt, I'm still number 1. One youth spoke. "Next year, I'm going to Yunmeng to study. Nobody can hold me back." A bucket of cold water was thrown on him. "Nobody would hold you back. Your older brother would just break your legs." The youth drooped at once. This was the second young master of Qinghe Ni sect, Ni Huaisong. His brother Ni Mingju was extremely resolute when carrying out orders, quite renowned in the cultivation world. Although the brothers were not born from the same mother, their relationship was quite solid. I forgot they were half-brothers. Ni Mingju had always taught his younger brother with extreme harshness, particularly caring for his studies. This was why, even though Ni Huaisong respected his older brother, he was the most scared of Ni Mingju regarding his schoolwork. Wei Wuxian spoke. "To be honest, Gusu's quite fun as well." Ni Huaisong spoke. "Wei Shang, listen to a sincere advice of mine. The Cloud Recesses is nothing like Lotus Pier. On this trip to Gusu, remember that there's one person who you shouldn't provoke." Wei Wuxian asked, "Who? Lan Shiren?" Ni Huaisong replied, "Not that old man. The one you need to be careful of is his proudest disciple named Lan Zhan." Wei Wuxian spoke. "The Lan Zhan from the 2 Jades of Lan Wangji?" The respectable title of the 2 Jades of Lan were given to the 2 sons of Gusu Lan sect's current sect leader, Lan Huan and Lan Zhan. Just after they passed 14, they were deemed by the elders of each sect as exemplary models to compare with their own disciples. They were exceptionally famous among the juniors, so it was only natural that everyone recognized the names. Ni Huaisong spoke. "What other Lan Zhan is there? Yes, it's that one. Oh gosh, he's the same age as you and I, but he has none of the energy of a teen. He's stiff and strict and even worse than his uncle." Wei Wuxian made the sound of an O and asked, "Is he a lad who looks quite pretty?" Zhang Chang sneered. "Is there anyone who looks ugly in the Gusu Lan sect? His sect doesn't even accept disciples with unclean features. If you can, find me one who has an average face." Wei Wuxian emphasized, Very pretty, he pointed at his head. White from top to bottom, wearing a forehead ribbon, carrying a silver sword on his back. He looked rather handsome, but with his straight face, he looked like he was mourning. Nihoi Song spoke assuredly. That's him! After a pause, he spoke again. But he had been doing secluded meditating for the past few days. You just came yesterday. When did you have a chance to see him? Yesterday night. Yesterday night? Zhang Chang was stunned. There's a curfew in the cloud recesses. Where did you see him? Why don't I know about this? Oh. That was all a sentence. Anyways, Wei Wuxian pointed. There. He pointed to the top of a very tall wall. The others were out of speech. Zhang Chang even felt his head growing larger and clenched his teeth. We just came and you got in trouble? What's the matter about? Wei Wuxian replied with a grin. There really isn't much. When we came, we passed that liquor shop called Emperor's Smile, right? Yesterday at night, I was tossing and turning and couldn't stand it any longer, so I went down the mountain, into the city, and brought back 2 jars. Mind you, we don't have the chance to drink this in Yunnan. Zhang Chang. Then where's the liquor? Wei Wuxian. Well, when I just flipped over the top of the wall, before I even had one leg inside, I was caught by him. One youth remarked, Wei Zhang, you must have struck gold. He probably just got out of seclusion and went on night patrol and caught you red-handed. Zhang Chang spoke. Those who return at night won't be let in until 7 in the morning. How come he let you inside? Wei Wuxian threw up his hands. So, he didn't let me in. He wanted me to move back the leg that had already stepped in. You tell me, how would I do that? And then, he came up, as light as a feather, and asked me what I had in my hands. Zhang Chang felt his head start to ache, indicating a foreboding feeling. What did you say? Wei Wuxian spoke. It's Emperor's Smile. If I share a jar with you, can you pretend that you never saw me? Zhang Chang sighed. Alcohol is forbidden in the cloud recesses. That's a worse crime. Wei Wuxian spoke. He said the same thing to me, and I asked, why don't you tell me what exactly is not forbidden in your sect? He seemed like he was a bit angry and wanted me to look at the wall of rules in front of the mountain. Honestly, there were over 3,000. Everything is written in seal script. Who would read them? Did you read them? Anyways, I didn't. What's angering about this? That's right, everyone felt the same way and all started to complain about the strange, outdated conventions in the cloud recesses, regretting that they didn't meet sooner. Whose sect rules are all over 3,000 in number and don't even repeat? Things like killing livestock, I disagree. There are quite a few rules that are practically the same damn thing. Anyways... Things like killing livestock within the area is prohibited, fighting without permission is prohibited, promiscuity is prohibited, venturing at night is prohibited, causing noise is prohibited, running is prohibited, all are tolerable, but there are even ones like sneering for no reason is prohibited, sitting improperly is prohibited, eating more than 3 bowls is prohibited. Wei Wuxian suddenly added, What? Fighting without permission is also prohibited? Zhang Chang. Yes. Don't tell me you fought with him. Wei Wuxian. I did. And we broke a jar of Emperor's Smile. Everyone slapped their legs and exclaimed in regret. In any case, the situation couldn't have been any worse, causing Zhang Chang's focus to switch. Didn't you bring back 2 jars? Where's the other one? I drank it. Zhang Chang, where did you drink it? In front of him. I said, okay, if alcohol is prohibited in the cloud recesses, then I won't go in. I'll drink it standing on the wall. That wouldn't count as violating the rules, would it? Then I drank everything in one gulp right in front of him. And then we started fighting. Wei Zhang, Nihoi Song blurted out, you're so smug. Wei Wuxian lifted his brows. Lanchan's skills were quite good. You're gonna die, Wei Zhang. Lanchan has never been at such a loss before. He's probably after you. You should be careful. Although Lanchan doesn't go to classes with us, he's in charge of punishments in the Lan sect. Wei Wuxian was not frightened at all, waving his hand. What's there to be scared of? Didn't everyone say that Lanchan had been a prodigy since he was very young? If he's so smart from such an early age, then he probably finished learning everything his uncle taught and do secluded meditation all the time. How would he have time to come after me? Before his sentence was finished, as the group walked around a wall with a hollowed-out window, they saw a white-clothed boy sitting in a rigidly upright position in the room, with long hair tied up, wearing a forehead ribbon, emitting an aura of ice and frost. He swept a cold look at them. At once, It was as if 10 or so mouths were silenced. They quietly entered the room, quietly picked their seats to sit, and quietly avoided the desks around Lan Wangji. Zhang patted Wei Wuxian's shoulder and whispered, "He's after you. Hope for the best." When Wei Wuxian turned his head, he could see the side of Lan Wangji's face. His lashes were long, appearing to be extremely delicate and elegant. His posture was also very upright, looking straight ahead, as if he was just thinking about starting a conversation with him. Lan Qiren walked into the room. Lan Qiren was tall and thin, standing with a straight back. Although he had a long black goatee, he was definitely not old, and, according to the tradition of Gusunlan clan, producing beautiful men each generation, he was definitely not bad-looking either. I don't like thinking about that. Yet, unfortunately, with the pedantic and stiff air that surrounded him, nothing would feel wrong if one called him an old man. He entered with a scroll in one hand. The long scroll of paper rolled all over the ground as soon as he opened it and started to talk about the rules of the Gusulan sect. The faces of everyone in the room started to grow dark. As Wei Wuxian was bored, his gaze flew everywhere and landed on the side face of Lan Wangji. He was shocked as he saw concentration and seriousness that were nothing like a facade. How can he listen so attentively to something so boring? Immediately, in the front, Lan Qiren slammed the scroll to the ground and smiled bitterly. I am only repeating this one by one because nobody reads it, even though it was carved into the rock wall. Hence, nobody will be able to violate them using ignorance as an excuse again. Even if I do this, there are still people who do not pay attention. Very well, I will proceed to talk about something else. Although his words could be applied to everyone in the room, Wei Wuxian's intuition told him that it was a warning directed at him. As he expected, Lan Qiren spoke. Wei Ying. Wei Wuxian answered, Here. Let me ask you, are Yao, demons, ghosts, and monsters the same things? Wei Wuxian smiled. No. Why not? How are they differentiated? Yao are formed from living non-human beings. Demons are formed from living humans. Ghosts are formed from dead humans. Monsters are formed from dead, non-human beings. Yao and monsters are often confused. Was an example that distinguishes the two. That's easy, Wei Wuxian pointed at the viridian tree outside the room and replied. For example, a living tree was tainted with the energy of books, cultivated into a conscious being, and causes mischief. It would be a Yao. If I took an axe and cut the tree in the middle so that only a dead tree stump was left, and then it cultivates into a being, it would be a monster. What was the profession of the progenitor of the Qinghe sect? A butcher. The heraldry of the Lingjin sect is a white peony. Which type of white peony is it? Sparks amid snow. Who was the first in the cultivation world to focus on the rise of his clan rather than his sect? The progenitor of Qishan Wen sect, Wen Mao. His fluent answers made everyone's heart skip a few beats. Although they felt lucky, they all prayed for him not to be stumped by any questions so that Lan Qiren wouldn't have the opportunity to pick on other people. Yet Lan Qiren spoke. As a disciple of the Yunmangjiang sect, you should have been very familiar with these and known them by heart since long ago, so there's nothing to be proud of even if you answered correctly. Let me ask you again. There's an executioner with parents, a wife, and children, but before he died, he executed more than 100 people. He suddenly died in the public, and to punish him for his deeds, he was left on the street for 7 days. With the repressed energy of resentment, he started to hunt and kill. What should be done? This time, Wei Wuxian didn't answer immediately. The others thought that he was confused and were all feeling restless. Lan Qiren scolded. Why are you looking at him? Think about this as well. Don't open your books. The disciples all took their hands away from the books that they intended on quickly flipping through. They were all confused as well. Having died in the public and left on the street for 7 days, it was definitely a fierce ghost, and a ferocious corpse, and therefore a question hard to solve. Everyone hoped that the old man Lan wouldn't pick on them to answer. After a few moments, seeing that Wei Wuxian didn't answer, Lan Qiren seemed like he was thinking and spoke again. Wangji, you can tell him what should be done. Alright, any of these translator notes feel relevant? Not really. Zhang mean older brother. Yeah, okay. Secluded meditation, I think we get it. So yeah, okay. None of that really matters, I don't think. So, moving on. Next chapter. Let me take a drink. Okay. Lan Wangji did not look at Wei Wuxian. He nodded to indicate respect and spoke in a monotonous voice. First, liberate. Second, suppress. Third, eliminate. The initial approach is to utilize the gratitude of his relatives and grant his dying wish. Set free what he could not let go of. If it fails, suppress it. If the crimes were extremely wrongful and the energy of resentment does not dissipate, exterminate it completely. The cultivation world should precisely keep to this order of measures. No error should be allowed. Everyone let out a long breath, thanking the heavens because Lan Wangji was the one the old man selected. Else, if it was their turn, it would be hard to not overlook a few steps or mix up the order. Lan Qiren nodded with satisfaction. Not a single mistake was made. With a long pause, he spoke again. No matter in terms of cultivation or as a person, one needs to be solid as this. If one becomes complacent and proud just because they defeated a few simple mountain beings in their home, and hold some empty reputations, one would definitely bring disgrace upon themselves sooner or later. Wei Wuxian raised his brows and took a look at the side of Lan Wangji's face. He thought, so apparently this old man meant it for me. He called his best pupil to listen with us in order for me to watch. He spoke. I have a question. Lan Qiren replied. Speak. Wei Wuxian. Although liberation comes first, it is often impossible to grant his dying wish. Sounds simple. It would be easy if the wish was a new piece of clothing, but what if the wish was to kill lots of people for revenge? Lan Wangji, thus suppression assists liberation. If it is necessary, elimination would also follow. Wei Wuxian smiled. Such a waste. He paused and continued. It wasn't that I didn't know this answer. I was only thinking of a fourth path. Lan Qiren spoke. I've never heard of any fourth paths. Wei Wuxian spoke. Because the executioner died in such a way, it is only natural that he turned into a ferocious corpse. Since he executed more than 100 people before he died, why not dig up the graves of those people, arouse their energy of resentment, collect the heads of those 100 people, and use them to fight with the ferocious corpse? Lan Wangji finally turned around to look at him. His brows were knit, still expressionless. Lan Qiren was so angered that his goatee was quivering. He shouted, How dare you! Everyone in the room was stunned. Lan Qiren sprang to his feet. The essence of exorcising demons and annihilating ghosts is to liberate. You do not study methods of liberation and think about increasing the energy of resentment. You reverse the natural order and ignore ethics and morality. Wei Wuxian replied, There are some things that have no use after liberation, so why not find a way to make use of them? When Yu the Great tamed the flood, obstruction was the inferior method, and redirection was the superior. Suppression is the same as obstruction, so isn't it inferior? Lan Qiren hurled a book toward him, but he flinched to the side and avoided it. His expression remained unchanged and continued to talk nonsense. Spiritual energy is energy. Resentful energy is energy as well. Spiritual energy is stored in the Dantian. It can split mountains and fill oceans available for human use, so then why can't resentful energy also be used by humans? Another book came flying from Lan Qiren. He spoke harshly. Then let me ask you again. How do you make sure that the resentful energy only listens to you and does not harm others? Wei Wuxian ducked while speaking. Haven't thought of it yet. Lan Qiren raged. If you thought of it, the cultivation world would not allow your existence. Get out! Wei Wuxian couldn't be more glad and quickly went out. He wandered about the cloud recesses for the morning, picking flowers and playing with grasses. After everyone finished the lesson, they finally found him on the roof of a tall wall. Wei Wuxian was sitting on the gray tiles of the ledge, holding a piece of grass in his mouth. His right hand was under his cheek and sat up with one leg propped up and the other hanging down, swaying slightly. The other disciples there pointed at him. Wei Xiong, how admirable of you! He told you to get out and you really went outside! After you went out, a long while passed before he finally understood what happened. His face was so purple. Wei Wuxian chewed on the grass and shouted toward below him. He asks and I answer. If he tells me to get out, I'll get out. What else does he want me to do? Ni Huaisong spoke. Why does it seem like Old Man Lan is especially strict towards you? He always directs his scoldings at you. Zhang Shang humped. Serves him right. What sort of answer is that? It's fine if he spouts these nonsense at home, but he dared to say these in front of Lan Qiren. He's seeking his own death. Wei Wuxian spoke. No matter how I answered it, he wouldn't have liked me, so I might as well just say what I wanted to anyways. Anyways, I didn't try to offend him, I was just answering properly. After thinking for a few moments, an expression of envy and yearning appeared on Ni Huaisang's face. To be honest, Wei Zhang's words were quite interesting. Spiritual energy can only be obtained through cultivation and taking great pains to form a golden core. It would take I don't know how many years to do, especially for someone like me whose talent seems as if it was gnawed by a dog when I was in my mother's womb. But resentful energy are from the fierce ghosts, and they can easily be taken and used. It would be beyond wonderful. A golden core was a core formed by cultivators after they had cultivated to a certain point. It can store and control spiritual energy. After the core was formed, the cultivator's level of cultivation would increase at a rapid speed and become better than better. Else, they would only be a low-end cultivator. If a disciple from a prominent clan forms the core at a later age, it would be a disgrace to tell others of it. Yet, Ni Huaisang didn't feel ashamed at all. Wei Wuxian also laughed. I know, right? No harm comes from using it. That's what you think. What happened? Yeah, okay, that froze. Fixed it. Jiang Cheng warned, "That's enough. It's fine if you talk about it, but don't actually walk such a crooked path." Wei Wuxian smiled. Why would I leave the nice broad road and walk a single plank bridge on a dark narrow river instead? If it really is that easy, people would have already walked on it. Don't worry. He was just asking, and I was just answering. Hey, are you guys coming? Since it's not curfew yet, wanna hunt for pheasants with me? Jiang Cheng scolded. What do you mean, hunt for pheasants? Why would there be pheasants here? First, go copy righteousness. Lan Qiren asked me to tell you to copy the virtue section of righteousness for 3 times, so that you can learn what natural law and morality is. Righteousness was the collection of the Lan sect's rules. The sect rules here were too long, so Lan Qiren revised them into a thick collection. The sections of virtue and conduct were 4/5 of the whole book. Wei Wuxian spat out the grass, which he held in his mouth, and dusted his books. 3 times? I'd fly up to heaven if I just copied them once. I'm not from the Lan sect, and I don't intend to marry into the Lan clan, so why should I copy the sect rules of his sect? I'm not gonna copy. Ni Huaisang spoke quickly. I'll copy for you, Wei Wuxian. No good person does favors for others out of the blue. Tell me, what do you want me to do? Ni Huaisang replied, It's like this. Wei Zhang, Old Man Lan has a bad habit. In the middle of his sentence, he suddenly paused and coughed dryly, opening his fan and shifting to the side. Wei Wuxian knew that something was wrong. He turned around, and sure enough, Lan Wangji stood under an ancient verdant tree and gazed in their direction, carrying the Bishen sword on his back. He looked like a jade tree, reflecting the mottled shadows of leaves and sunlight. However, his stare wasn't kind at all, as if it could lock them in a cavern made of ice. Everyone knew that their shots were a bit too loud, and the noise had probably led him over, so they all shut their mouths. Yet Wei Wuxian jumped down and gravitated towards him. Wang Jizhang! Lan Wangji turned around and immediately walked away. Wei Wuxian carefully went after him and yelled, Wang Jizhang, wait for me! The white-clothed figure flashed behind a tree and suddenly disappeared without a trace, clearly showing that Lan Wangji didn't want to converse with him. Having received only a view from behind, Wei Wuxian turned around and complained to the others. He ignored me. Yeah, Ni Huaisang spoke. It looks like he really hates you, Wei Zhang. Lan Wangji usually... No, he never does something so impolite. Wei Wuxian, he hates me already? I wanted to apologize to him. Wei Wuxian thought otherwise. Jiang Cheng sneered. Apologizing how? Too late. Like his uncle, he surely thinks that you're evil and unruly to the core and didn't bother to pay you any attention. Wei Wuxian thought otherwise. He chuckled. Who cares if he ignored me? Does he look... Who cares if he ignored me? Does he look pretty? What? After a thought, he realized that Lan Wangji did look pretty, and so he happily threw away his desire to twitch his lips. Wait, why does that matter? Why is that being brought up? Okay. Only after 3 days did Wei Wuxian finally know of Lan Qiren's bad habit. Lan Qiren's lessons were not only tediously long, but everything was also tested on. The generational changes of important clans in the cultivation world, the division of their areas of power, famous quotes by famous cultivators, family trees. Although he didn't understand a single bit as he listened in class, Niu Haisong worked as hard as a slave. Oh, thanks. I lost my place. When the date of the test approached, he copied Virtue 2 times for Wei Wuxian and begged before the test, "Please, Wei Zhang, if my grade is lower than Yi, my brother will really break my legs." Stuff like telling apart direct lineages, collateral lineage, main clan, clan branches. For us disciples from big clans, we can't even distinguish our relationships with our own relatives. Randomly calling everyone who are more than 2 tiers away from us aunts and uncles. Does anyone have enough capacity in their brain to remember those of other clans? As a result of cheating notes flying everywhere in the air, Lan Wangji suddenly attacked during the test and caught a few initiators of the commotion. Lan Qiren exploded with anger, writing letters to the prominent clans to tell on them. He loathed Wei Wuxian in the beginning. Although these disciples could hardly sit still, at least nobody started anything, and their buttocks were able to stick to their legs. However, now that Wei Ying came, the originally spineless brats were influenced by his encouragement, venturing out at night and drinking alcohol however they pleased. The unhealthy practices grew greater and greater as he had expected. Wei Ying was one of the biggest threats to humanity. I'm not sure that's a threat to humanity. Zhang Fengmen replied, "Ying has always been like this. Please take care to discipline him, Mr. Lan." And so Wei Wuxian was punished again. At first he didn't think too much of it. It was only copying text, and he never lacked people who copied for him, yet this time Niu Haisong spoke. "Wei Zhang, even if I want to help you, I can't anymore. You'd have to endure it on your own." Wei Wuxian asked, "What happened?" Niu Haisong, "Old Mr. Lan said that you have to copy both virtue and conduct." Conduct was the most complicated section of the 12 sections of the Lan sect rules. It cited a lot of classics and was terribly long, and had a lot of rarely used characters. Copy it 1 time and one would lose all interest in life. Copy it 10 times and one would fly up to heaven on the spot. Niu Haisong added, "He also said that during the time of the punishment, nobody's allowed to fool around with you or copy them for you." Wei Wuxian wondered, how would he know if someone copied them for me or not? Surely it doesn't mean that he's making someone watch me. Zhang Chang spoke. "That's exactly the case." Wei Wuxian spoke. "What did you say?" Zhang Chang. "He told you that you're not allowed to go outside and have to go to the library pavilion to copy, and also face the wall and reflect upon your mistakes. Of course there will be someone to watch you. I don't need to tell you who he is, do I?" Inside the library pavilion, there was 1 bamboo seat, 1 wooden desk, 2 candlesticks, and 2 people. One sat in a proper position, but on the other side, Wei Wuxian had already copied conduct for more than 10 pages. His head felt dizzy and his heart felt bored, so he dropped his pen to take a breath and looked across. When he was still in Yunmeng, there were a lot of girls who envied that he could come and study with Lan Wangji. They said that each generation was full of nice-looking men, especially the brothers, part of the 2 Jades, in the current generation. Before this, Wei Wuxian never had the chance to carefully examine the front of his face. Now that he had a look at it, he started to think random thoughts. He looks quite nice indeed, yet if only those girls could come and see them with their own eyes, looking as bitter as if everyone had offended him or his parents died. Ooh. Well, it wouldn't matter no matter how nice his face looks. Lan Wangji was recopying ancient books, which were not only old, but also unavailable to most others, in the Lan sect's library pavilion. His brushstrokes were slow and steady, and his handwriting was neat yet sharply vigorous. Wei Wuxian couldn't help but compliment him sincerely. "Those are some great characters. They're of the top level." Lan Wangji remained indifferent. Wei Wuxian rarely kept his mouth shut for such a long amount of time. Feeling suffocated, he thought, "I have to sit in front of such a stuffy person for so many hours each day for a month? Would I even survive?" At this point of thought, he couldn't help but slightly tilted his body forward. Translated. Wait. Oh. They did not separate that well. Yeah, okay. Wow. Okay. When they mention the fly up to heaven thing, this usually happens in high fantasy, but Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation is low fantasy, so nobody actually flies up to heaven. If you're interested in settings involving gods and immortals, check out the author's new work, Heavenly Blessings. Like, no group is translating this yet, but the fan art is quite nice. Like, little plug for Tianguang Sifu. Nice. Okay. Wait, what? Okay, so getting a Yi would be like getting a B, and Nihua-san will get beat up for that? Good lord. Let's see. Yeah, okay. I forgot. I don't know if I really realized just how gay these early chapters are when I first read it, but like knowing everything that happens and rereading it, it's like, why? This boy really thought he was straight, and he won't stop talking about how pretty Lan Wangji is when he first met him at 15. Like, buddy, I don't know how to break it to you, but you're really not straight at all. Alright. This isn't gonna be what I think it is it? But I hope it is. Wei Wuxian was someone who was skilled at finding fun for himself, especially talented in the area of seeking joy amid dull circumstances. Since there wasn't anything else to play with, he could only play with Lan Wangji. He called, Wangji-zhang. Lan Wangji remained motionless. Wei Wuxian, Wangji. He appeared as if he didn't hear anything. Wei Wuxian, Lan Wangji. Wei Wuxian, Lanjan! Lan Wangji finally stopped writing and looked at him with a cold gaze. Wei Wuxian shifted backwards, raising his hands as if he was defending himself. Don't look at me like this. I only called your name because you didn't answer when I called you Wangji. If you're upset, you can also call me back with my name. Lan Wangji spoke. Put your legs down. Wei Wuxian's sitting posture was extremely improper, with his slanted body and legs propped up. Seeing that he finally teased Lan Wangji to the point that he started to talk, the former slightly chuckled to himself, as if he finally saw the clouds disperse and the moon appear. Listening to Wangji's words, he put his legs down, but his upper body inched unnoticeably closer, and he pressed his arms onto the desk. It was still an unacceptable sitting posture. He asked in a serious tone, Lanjan, let me ask you a question. Do you really hate me that much? Lan Wangji looked down, his lashes casting light shadows onto his jade-like cheeks. Wei Wuxian hurriedly added, Hey, don't be like this. Ignore me again after saying so few words. I want to admit my fault and apologize to you. Look at me. After a pause, he spoke again. You don't want to look at me? Sure, then I'll just start talking. It was my fault during that night. I was wrong. I shouldn't have climbed the wall. I shouldn't have drank alcohol, and I shouldn't have fought with you. But I swear, it wasn't like that I provoked you on purpose. I really didn't look at the sect rules. The sect rules in Zhang's sect are all told verbally. None of them are written down, or else I definitely wouldn't have done that. I definitely wouldn't have finished the jar of Emperor's Smoke in front of you. I would have tucked it away and carried it back to my room, secretly drinking every day and sharing it with everyone until we all had enough. Wei Wuxian continued, and let's be reasonable. Which one of us attacked first? It was you. If you didn't attack, we could have communicated nicely and cleared everything up. However, if someone hits me, I'd have to hit them back. This isn't all my fault. Lanjan, are you listening? Look at me. Young Master Lan? He snapped his fingers. Second brother Lan, why don't you do me a favor and look at me? Lan Wangji didn't even lift his eyes. Copy it one additional time. Wei Wuxian's body immediately slanted. Don't be like this. It's my fault, alright? Lan Wangji exposed his lie mercilessly. You do not feel any remorse. Wei Wuxian spoke as if he didn't have any dignity. I'm sorry. I can repeat it however many times you want me to. I can even say it while kneeling down. Lan Wangji put his brush down. Wei Wuxian thought that the other couldn't endure it any longer and finally wanted to beat him up. Okay. Just as he got ready to put on a goofy grin, he discovered that his upper and lower lips seemed like they were glued together, so he couldn't laugh. His face quickly changed. He struggled to talk. Lan Wangji closed his eyes and let out a faint breath of air. When he opened his eyes, the calm expression returned again. He picked up the brush again as if nothing had happened. Wei Wuxian had been aware of the hated silencing spell of the lawn sect since long ago, and he refused to believe it. Yet, after making every effort, scratching the corners of his lips red, he still couldn't open his mouth no matter what, and so he grabbed a piece of paper, wrote as if his brush was flying, and threw the paper over. Lan Wangji glanced at it. Pathetic, he responded, crumpling it into a ball and tossing it away. Wei Wuxian was so angry that he rolled around on the mat, climbed up, and wrote another one, slamming it in front of Lan Wangji. Again, it was crumpled into a ball and tossed away. The silencing spell was only removed after he finished copying. The second day, when he came to the library pavilion again, the balls of paper which landed everywhere were all taken out. Wei Wuxian had always forgot about the pain after the cut healed, although on the first day he suffered greatly from this silencing spell. After a few moments, his mouth started to itch again. After recklessly speaking a few times, he was silenced once more. He couldn't open his mouth, so he scribbled on paper and pushed them to Lan Wangji, who crumpled it and threw it to the ground. The same thing happened on the third day. He was silenced time after time. However, on the last day of him having to face the wall and reflect, Lan Wangji noticed that Wei Wuxian seemed somewhat differently. During his stay at Gusu, he left his sword all around the place and was never seen carrying it properly. Yet, he took it with him today, loudly slamming it onto the desk. He even went as far as to start writing without a word, contrasting his usual behavior of relentlessly harassing Lan Wangji in every way possible. He was so obedient that it was strange. Lan Wangji didn't have a reason to silence him, so he took a few more glances at him as if he didn't believe that Wei Wuxian was finally willing to behave himself. As he had expected, after a short while of sitting down, Wei Wuxian repeated his past conduct again, giving Lan Wangji a piece of paper for him to see. Lan Wangji originally thought that it was going to be a mess of lame phrases again, but after a coincidental glimpse, he was surprised to find the drawing of a person sitting upright and reading by the window with a vividly realistic expression on his face. It was himself. Seeing that he didn't avert his gaze at once, Wei Wuxian curled his lips and raised his eyebrow with a wink. No words were needed since the meaning was plain to see. Does it look like you? Is it good? Lan Wangji spoke again. You have spare time, yet you scribble instead of copy the text. In my opinion, the day of your release from this punishment will never come. Wei Wuxian blew on the ink which hadn't dried yet and spoke nonchalantly. I already finished copying, so I won't be coming tomorrow. Lan Wangji's slender fingers seemed to have paused before flipping over the next yellow-tinted page. Surprisingly, Wei Wuxian wasn't silenced, as he didn't provoke any reaction. Wei Wuxian lightly threw the drawing. It's yours! The drawing was thrown at the mat, but Lan Wangji didn't have any intention of picking it up. During these days, the paper which Wei Wuxian wrote on to curse him, cajole him, apologize to him, beg him, and other messy scribbles all ended up this way. He was used to it and didn't mind. He suddenly added, I forgot, I need to add something else. After his words, he picked up the paper and his brush and added a few strokes. He glanced at the drawing, and then the actual person, and fell toward the ground in laughter. Lan Wangji put the book down and saw that Wei Wuxian added a flower onto the drawing, where the side of his head was. The corner of his lips seemed to have twitched. Wei Wuxian crawled up and spoke before him. Pathetic. Pathetic, right? I just know that you're going to say pathetic. Can't you switch to something else, or add another word to it? Lan Wangji replied coldly. Extremely pathetic. Wei Wuxian clapped his hands. So you really added another word to it. Thank you. Lan Wangji turned his gaze away and picked up the book which he had put on the desk. And opened it again. He only took one look at it before he hurled the book away as if he was burnt by fire. He was initially reading a Buddhist text, but when he had looked at the page flipped open, he was presented with naked, intertwining figures intolerable to his eye. The book that he was reading was substituted with a pornographic book, its cover disguised as a Buddhist text. Even someone without a brain would have guessed who had done the deed. It must have been done when somebody took the opportunity that opened up when his attention turned to the drawing, let alone the fact that Wei Wuxian didn't even bother to cover it up, slapping the table as he laughed hysterically. As the book was thrown to the ground, Lan Wangji seemed as if he was escaping from snakes or scorpions. Falling back to the corner of the library pavilion in less than a second, he roared with rage. Wei Ying! Wei Wuxian almost rolled under the desk from laughter and raised a hand with much difficulty. Here! I'm here! Lan Wangji swiftly drew his sword, Bishen. Ever since the day they had met, Wei Wuxian had never seen him appear so discomposed. He hastily grabbed his own sword, drawing his sword so that a third of the blade was out. He reminded Lan Wangji, "Manners, Second Master Lan. Watch your manners. I brought my sword today as well. If we start fighting would your library pavilion be fine?" He knew that Lan Wangji would be shamed into anger, so he went out of his way to carry his sword for self-defense, so that he wouldn't be accidentally stabbed to death. The blade of Lan Wangji's sword pointed at him. Fire could almost be seen sprouting from his pair of light-colored eyes. "What sort of person are you?" Wei Wuxian responded. "What sort of person could I be? A man!" Lan Wangji lashed out. "You have no shame." Wei Wuxian, "Do I need to be ashamed about this? Don't tell me you've never seen something like this before. I don't believe you." Lan Wangji's weak point was that he didn't know how to argue. After a moment of silently holding back, he pointed his sword at Wei Wuxian. He spoke with a frigid face. "You, go outside. We have fought before." Wei Wuxian shook his head a couple of times, pretending to be docile. Nope. Don't you know, young Master Lan? Fighting without permission is prohibited in the cloud recesses." He proceeded to pick up at the book, which was thrown away, but Lan Wangji went before him, snatching it in his hand. Wei Wuxian quickly guessed that he was going to use this as evidence to report him. He deliberately spoke. "Why are you grabbing it? I thought you didn't want to read it." "Now you do? Actually, even if you want to read it, you don't have to fight for it. I borrowed it exclusively for you anyways. Now that you've seen my porn, you've become my friend. We can continue to exchange opinions," and Lan Wangji's whole face turned white. He spoke one word at a time. "I will not read it." Wei Wuxian continued to distort the facts. "If you won't read it, why'd you grab it? Secretly keeping it? You can't do that. I borrowed this from someone else, so I'd have to return it after you read it. Hey, don't come here. You're too close. I feel nervous. Let's talk nicely. If you're not gonna hand this in, are you? Hand in to whom? Your uncle?" "Second young Master Lan. Do you think that you can let the elders see this? He'd definitely think that you already read it. With a face as thin as yours, you'd be so ashamed that you'd die." Lan Wangji filled his right hand with spiritual energy and broke the book into thousands and millions of pieces, fluttering downward. As Wei Wuxian saw that he successfully provoked Lan Wangji to the point that the evidence was destroyed, he finally felt relieved and spoke with fake regret. "What a waste!" Then he picked up a piece of paper which had fallen on his hair, raising it up to show the fuming, pale-faced Lan Wangji. "Lanzhan, everything about you is great, except that you like to throw things everywhere. Tell me, how many wads of paper have you thrown onto the ground in these past few days? Today, you aren't even satisfied with throwing paper wads anymore, and instead ripped paper. You ripped it, so you cleaned it up yourself. I'm not gonna help." Of course, he had never helped anyways. Lan Wangji tried again and again to put up with him, but he couldn't do it anymore. He thundered, "Get lost!" Wei Wuxian spoke. Well, look at you, Lanzhan. Everyone says that you're a gentleman of excellence, a bright pearl in the world, carrying yourself with incomparable courtesy. So it seems that this is all there is. Didn't you know that causing noise is prohibited in the cloud recesses? And you actually told me to get lost. Is this the first time that you used this phrase on somebody? Lan Wangji drew his sword and went at him. Wei Wuxian hurriedly hopped onto the windowsill. "Get lost it is, then. Getting lost is my best skill. It's not necessary for you to see me out." He jumped down the library pavilion, laughing like a maniac as he barged into the forest. There was already a group of people waiting for him. Ni Huaisong asked, "How did it go? Did he read it? What was he like?" Wei Wuxian replied, "What was he like? Don't you guys hear that loud shout he gave?" Ni Huaisong was full of admiration. "I heard it. He told you to get lost." "Wei Zhang, it was my first time hearing Lan Wangji tell someone to get lost. How did you do it?" Satisfaction was plastered all over Wei Wuxian's face. "Good thing that I helped him to achieve his first. You all saw it, didn't you? The self-restraint and etiquette that second young Master Lan was praised so strongly for were all weak and useless against me." Zhang Chang scolded with a darkened expression. "What are you proud of? What is there to be proud of with this? Do you think that it's a glorious thing to be told by someone to get lost? You bring so much shame upon our sect." Wei Wuxian spoke. I really wanted to apologize to him, but he never paid attention to me. He silenced me for so many days, so what's wrong with me having a little fun with him? I presented him with a book with a nice intention. Huai Sangsheng... Huai Sangsheng... What happened to your treasure porn was really a pity. I didn't even get to finish it. It was so good. Lanzhan definitely didn't understand proper relationships. I gave it to him, yet he was still unhappy. It's such a waste of that face of his. Nihua-san blurted, It's not a pity at all. You can have as many as you want. Zhang Chang sneered, You've seriously offended both Lan Wangji and Lan Qiren. Just wait for your death tomorrow. Nobody's gonna bury your corpse. Wei Wuxian waved his hands, putting his arm around Zhang Chang's shoulders. Who cares, as long as I tease him first? You've already buried my corpse so many times. What's wrong with once more? Zhang Chang responded with a kick. Shoot, shoot, shoot. Next time, if you do such a thing, don't let me know. Don't ask me to watch either. Yup. Fun, fun, fun. What is this notification? I'm not sure what this notification is. Okay. Wow, it is loading slowly. I'm gonna take a drink. Wait, what chapter does this section end? Also, is this... Okay, this is a short chapter as well. Here it is. That can't be right. No, that's not the end of it. I want to find out what chapter this section ends. No, fan art. Neat. That's not it. Yep, okay. And so it's to chapter 19. 19 is my goal. If I read any more than that, it's gonna be a cliffhanger. I'm pretty sure, so... Yeah, I don't want to read for too much longer. I don't know how long it would take after that. Anyways, so let's continue. In order to defend himself, old Fuddy-Duddy and Lil Fuddy-Duddy came to drag him out of his bed in the middle of the night. Wei Wuxian slept while clinging to his sword, yet the night went smoothly. On the second day, Ni Huaisang came to him with an overjoyed expression. Wei Zhang, you really struck it lucky. The old man went to our sex discussion conference last night, so we don't have classes for a few days. Now that the old one is gone, the young one can be easily taken care of. Wei Wuxian quickly climbed up, beaming as he put on his boots. A lucky strike indeed, almost as if heaven is blessing me with its clouds. Zhang Chang stood on the side, carefully cleaning his sword, and threw cold water on this notion. When he comes back, you're still gonna get your punishment. Wei Wuxian responded, Why would a living person worry about what happens after they die? I'll just live as freely as possible. Let's go. I refuse to believe that I can't find any pheasants on this mountain of the Lan sect. The three walked together, passing through the reception room of the cloud recesses. Suddenly, Wei Wuxian stopped in his tracks and exclaimed, There are two little fuddies. Lanzhan's. What? That's... How dare you disrespect Zichen this way? A few people walked out of the room. Of the two youths at the front, both looked as if they were carved out of ice and jade. Both wore the same snow-white robes, and both had sword tassels which swayed in the breeze, alongside ribbons on their clothes. The only differences were their ambiances and facial expressions. Wei Wuxian could tell at once that if the one with the stern face was Lan Wangji, the gentle one must be the other jade of the Lan sect, Seiwu Jun, Lan Zichen. As Lan Wangji saw Wei Wuxian, he scrunched his brows and gave him a glare in almost glowering fashion, as if he would be tainted if he looked a moment longer. He moved his gaze away and stared into the distance. On the other hand, Lan Zichen smiled. And you are? No. Zhang Chang showed his respect with a salute. Zhang Wanyin of Yunmeng. Wei Wuxian followed. Wei Wuxian of Yunbang. Lan Xichen returned the salute. Ni Huaisang whispered in the volume of a net. Brother Zichen. Zichen turned to him. Huaisang, a while ago, as I returned from Qinghe, your brother asked of your studies. How is it? This year, will you be able to pass? Ni Huaisang replied, generally speaking, yes. He seemed like a wilted cucumber, looking at Wei Wuxian in a helpless way. Wei Wuxian grinned. Zei Jun, what are you two going out for? Lan Zichen. To exterminate a water ghoul. We were short of hands, so I came back to find Wang Ji. Oh my god. I'm stumbling over myself. Lan Wangji spoke coldly. Brother, we do not need to engage in small talk. This matter permits no delay. It is time for us to depart. Wei Wuxian hurried. Wait. I know how to catch water ghouls. Zei Jun, why don't you take us along? Lan Xichen smiled without words. Lan Wangji declared, it is against the rules. Wei Wuxian, how's it against the rules? We used to catch water ghouls all the time in Yunmeng. Besides, we don't have classes these days anyways. Yunmeng was abundant in lakes and water, so it teemed with water ghouls. It was true that the people of the Zhang sect were adept at this, and Zhangcheng also wanted to make up for the face which the Yunmeng Zhang sect lost during the stay at Lan sect. That's right, Zei Jun, we would definitely be of help. It is not necessary. The Gusulan sect is also... Before Lan Wangji could finish talking, Zichen spoke while smiling. Sure then. Many thanks for your help. Do some preparations and we can depart together. Huaisang, are you coming as well? Ni Huaisang also wanted to join in, but he had been reminded of his older brother as he met Lan Zichen, cringing silently. He didn't dare have fun. I'll pass and go back so that I can review. With this act, he hoped that Lan Zichen would put in some good words for him to his brother. Wei Wuxian and Zhang Chang went back to their rooms to prepare. Lan Wangji looked at them from behind, his brows knitted with confusion. Brother, why did you decide to bring them? Exterminating ghouls is not suited for joking around. Lan Xichen answered. The head disciple and the only son of sect leader Zhang are quite well known in Yunmeng. It is likely that they know more than joking around. Although Lan Wangji didn't express his opinion, the phrase, I beg to differ, was written all over his face. Lan Xichen spoke again. And also, you wish for him to go as well, do you not? Lan Wangji was stunned, and Lan Xichen, I only agreed because you looked as if you wanted the head disciple of sect leader Zhang to come with you. A silence fell upon them as if the air was frozen solid. Only after a while did Lan Wangji finally respond, speaking with great difficulty. There was no such thing. He wanted to defend himself further, but Wei Wuxian and Zhang Chang already grabbed their swords and headed over, so Lan Wangji had to shut his mouth. The group mounted their swords and set off. The place where the water ghouls haunted was named Kai Town, about 10 kilometers away from the cloud recesses. Kai Town was connected with paths of water. It was either a net of rivers densely covering the town, or dwellings packed on either side of web-like water paths. The houses had white walls and gray roofs, and the rivers were filled with boats of baskets and people. On the banks, they sold flowers, fruits, bamboo, crafts, pastries, tea, and silk. Gusu was in the Jiangnan area, and all of the voices one could hear were soft and gentle. As two boats crashed into each other and a few jars of rice wine were spilled, even the arguments of two boatmen sounded like chirps of the oriole. Although Yunmeng had many lakes, there weren't a lot of small towns with so much water. Wei Wuxian found it quite interesting. He brought 2 jars of rice wine and gave one to Zhang Chang. Gusu people talk in such a sugary way. How is this arguing? If they see how Yunmeng people argue, they might be scared to death. Why are you looking at me, Lanzhan? It's not that I'm too stingy to buy you any, but aren't people from your sect prohibited from drinking alcohol? Having only stayed for a short time, the group boarded 10 or so narrow boats and rowed toward where the water ghouls gathered. Gradually, the number of houses on the bank decreased, and the river path became quieter as well. Wei Wuxian and Zhang Chang each had a boat, competing who could row faster while listening to the events in the area that concerned water ghouls. This water path led to a large lake ahead of them named Biling Lake. Kai Town hadn't been haunted by water ghouls ever since tens of years ago. For the past few months, people had started to fall into this path in Biling Lake boats, which carried also goods also sunk without reason. After a few days, Lan Zichen casted a few nets over this area. He expected to catch 1 or 2 water ghouls, but got about a dozen instead. He cleaned the corpses and carried them to a nearby part of town, only to find that some corpses were not familiar to any of the local people, and remained unclaimed. Yesterday he set up the net formation again and caught quite a few again. Wei Wuxian spoke. It doesn't seem like that the corpses drowned somewhere else and floated down here either. Water ghouls are picky about their area most of the time. The only place they settle is the place they drowned at, and they usually don't leave there. Lan Zichen nodded. That is correct. That is why I thought that it was no trivial matter and asked Wan Ji to come along in case something happens. Wei Wuxian asked, Zewi Jun, water ghouls are really clever. Water ghouls are really clever. If we use the boats and take our time like this, isn't it possible that they'll hide underwater and not come out? Won't we have to keep on searching forever? What if we can't find them? Lan Wangji replied, We will wait until we find them. After all, we do what we must. Wei Wuxian, just by using nets? Lan Zichen, that is right. Does the Yunmeng Jiang sect have other methods? Wei Wuxian smiled but didn't respond. Of course, the Yunmeng Jiang sect used nets as well, but because he was a good swimmer, he had always jumped into the river and dragged water ghouls out. However, this method was too dangerous. He definitely couldn't do it in front of the Lan sect's people. If it traveled into Lan Qiren's ears, he would definitely face another lecture. He switched the topic. It'd be great if there's something that can attract the water ghouls, like a fishing bait, or something that can point out the directions, like a compass. Zhang Chang spoke. Look down at the water and concentrate on finding them. You're letting your imagination run again. Wei Wuxian. Cultivation and riding on swords also used to be just imagination. As he looked down, he happened to be able to see the bottom of the boat which Lan Wangji was on. An idea flashed across his head. He shouted, Lanjan, look at me! At the moment, Lan Wangji was keeping a sharp lookout. As he heard the words, he looked up, only to see Wei Wuxian's bamboo paddle sweep up a splash of water and strike it toward him. With a tap of his foot, Lan Wangji lightly hopped onto another boat, dodging the spray. He was quite angered, thinking to himself that, sure enough, Wei Wuxian was here to fool around. Pathetic. However, Wei Wuxian kicked the side of the boat which he was standing on and tipped it over using the bamboo paddle. On the bottom of the boat there were 3 water ghouls with swelling faces and ashen skin, tightly clinging to the wooden boards. A disciple who was nearby immediately suppressed the 3. Lan Qiren smiled. Young Master Wei, how did you know that they were below the boats? Wei Wuxian knocked on the side of the boat. Simple. The displacement of water was wrong. He was the only person who stood on the boat, and yet the displacement was greater than those boats that carried 2 people. There must have been something on the bottom. Lan Zichen praised him. You are experienced indeed. Wei Wuxian's paddle lightly glided through the water, and the boat's speed quickened so that he was right next to Lan Wangji's boat. He spoke. Lanjan, I didn't splash water on you on purpose. Water ghouls are really clever. If I said out loud, they would have heard and gotten away. Hey, don't ignore me. Why don't you look at me, second young Master Lan? Lan Wangji finally condescended and gave him a glance. Why did you come? Wei Wuxian spoke with sincerity. I'm here to apologize to you. Last night was my fault. I was wrong. Lan Wangji's countenance was slightly dark, most likely because he still didn't forget how Wei Wuxian apologized to him. Wei Wuxian asked, although he knew the answer, Why do you look so gloomy? Don't worry, today I'm really here to help. Zhang Chang couldn't watch this scene any longer. If you want to help, then stop chattering and come here. A disciple shouted, The net moved! Sure enough, the ropes of the net started to wobble. Wei Wuxian beamed, It's here, it's here! Thick, long hair formed veils of black satin, surging and swelling around the boats. Amid them, pairs of ghastly hands gripped onto the sides. Lan Wangji backhandedly drew his sword, Bishen, and severed tens or so wrists on the side of the boat, leaving only palms with fingers digging deep into the wood. As he was able to cut the ones on the right, a red light flashed past and Wei Wuxian's sword was already back in its sheath. The strange shifts of water had ceased, and the net also became still once more. Although, a few moments ago, Wei Wuxian's sword attacked at an extremely fast speed, Lan Wangji could also tell that the sword he carried was of very high quality. He asked with a serious face, What is the name of this sword? Wei Wuxian answered, Suibian. Wei Wuxian stared at him. Lan Wangji stared at him. Wei Wuxian thought that he didn't hear properly, so he repeated again, Suibian. Lan Wangji frowned and refused. This sword has a spirit. Calling it as one pleases is disrespectful. Wei Wuxian let out a sigh. Think outside of the box, won't you? I wasn't asking you to call it whatever you wanted to, but the name of my sword happens to be Suibyan. Here, look. As he spoke, he passed the sword over to Lan Wangji to see the characters on the sword, surrounded by lines and patterns. 2 ancient characters were carved into the sheath. It was Suibyan indeed. For a few moments, Lan Wangji was at a loss for words. Wei Wuxian showed his consideration. You don't need to talk. I know you definitely won't want to ask me why it's called this name. Everyone asks if it has some special meaning to it. Actually, there's no special meaning at all. It was just that when Uncle John gave me the sword and asked me what I wanted to call it, I came up with more than 20 names, but wasn't satisfied with any of them. I thought that I could let Uncle John give it a name, so I answered, whatever. But who knew that after the sword had been forged and taken out, these 2 characters were on it. Uncle John said, if this is the case, then why not let the sword be named Suibyan? To be honest, this name isn't bad either, right? Finally, Lan Wangji spoke through gritted teeth. Ridiculous. Wei Wuxian carried his sword on his shoulder. You're such a boring person. Don't you see how fun this name is? It's especially good at tricking ones like you, and works every single time. At the same time, from within the Virid Lake, a long shadow darted around the small boat. After Zhang Chang finished the water ghouls on his side, he was still watching out for any that they might have missed. Seeing that the shadow, he immediately yelled, "It's coming again!" And yeah, Suibyan means whatever. Yeah, that's not that hard to pick up on. But I'm sure we know that. God, this keeps loading slow. It's chapter 19 that I stopped, right? Yup. 2 more chapters to read. The last one is really long, I think. So, a few disciples paddled and used nets to chase after the underwater shadow. Someone shouted from the other side, "There are some here as well!" On the other side, a mass of black shadows also whooshed past. A number of narrow boats dragged nets and went over, but they didn't catch anything. Wei Wuxian spoke. That's strange. The shape of this shadow doesn't seem like human. It's also sometimes long and sometimes short, sometimes large and sometimes small. Lanzhan, beside your boat! Instantly, the Bishan on Lan Wangji's back unsheathed and stabbed into the water. After a moment, it flew out of the river with a sharp resonance, taking with it a crescent of water, yet it didn't pierce anything. He held the sword in his hand with a stern expression. He was about to speak. A disciple on the other side also drew out his sword, thrusting it toward a dark shadow which swiftly swam by in the water. However, after his sword went underwater, it never came out again. He chanted the sword incantation for a few more times, but nothing was retrieved from the water. It was as if his sword had been devoured by the lake, disappearing without a trace. The disciple looked like he was a youth of similar age as Wei Wuxian, and the others without his sword. His face grew paler and paler. An older disciple behind him spoke. I am not sure how to say his name, and I don't want to look stupid. Sui She, right? Sui She. Or some shit. It's something like that, right? Hang on, I'm gonna pull it up in Google Translate so I don't look completely stupid. Because his name is the hardest one for me to understand. I just want to hear it pronounced, but apparently his name is being translated into dorm room. Susha. Yeah. Susha. Sha? I don't know. I feel like even though Google Translate is saying that's how to pronounce it, I'm still unsure. His name confuses me more than anyone else's. Susha, right now we still haven't determined what the thing in the water is. Why did you act on your own and make your sword go underwater? Susha seemed like he was somewhat flustered, but his expression was relatively calm. I saw that second young master also... He realized before he even finished speaking how unsuitable this sentence was. No matter what, the Bishan's sword or Lan Wangji were not comparable with others. Lan Wangji could enter his sword into water when the opponent was unknown and be just fine, but it might not be the case for others. An embarrassed shade of red seeped through his pale complexion as if he had been disgraced. He glanced at Lan Wangji, but Lan Wangji didn't look at him and instead attentively observed the water. In an instant, Bishan was unsheathed again. Hang on a second. This time, the blade of the sword wasn't inserted into the water, but instead the tip of the sword jolted and whisked up a piece of a shadow from within the water. A pile of wet black mess fell onto the floor of the boat with a plop. Wei Wuxian went on his toes to have a look. To his surprise, it was a piece of clothing. Wei Wuxian laughed so hard that he almost toppled into the river. Lan Zhan, you're so impressive! This is my first time seeing someone retrieve a water ghoul's clothing when they're catching water ghouls. Oh, wrong page. There we go. Lan Wangji simply examined Bishan's tip to see if there was anything strange. Seeming to have decidedly to not converse with him, Zhang Chang spoke. You should shut up! That thing swam underwater really wasn't a water ghoul. There was only a piece of clothing. Of course, Wei Wuxian saw it clearly. He just didn't feel satisfied without teasing Lan Wangji a few times. He spoke. So, the thing that was sneaking around really was just a piece of clothing. Now that's why the nets couldn't catch it and swords couldn't pierce it. Its shape was always different. However, a piece of clothing couldn't have swallowed up a whole sword. There must be something else inside the water. At the moment, the boats already floated toward the center of Bailing Lake. The color of the lake was an extremely dark shade of green. Suddenly, Lan Wangji slightly lifted his head. Go back immediately. Lan Ziqin asked, Why? Lan Wangji answered, The underwater beings led the boats to the center of Bailing Lake on purpose. Just as he finished his words, everyone suddenly felt their boats sinking. Water immediately started to spread to the boats. Wei Wuxian suddenly noticed that the color of Bailing Lake's water wasn't green anymore, but almost black. Surrounding the area close to the center, a large whirlpool had formed without anybody realizing. The 10 or so boats circled around, following the currents of the whirlpool. They sunk as they spun, as if they were going to be sucked inside a gigantic black mouth. The clangs of drawing swords chorused in the air. One after another, everyone mounted their swords and flew upward. Wei Wuxian already hovered above. He looked downward, only to see that the disciple who drove his sword underwater, Su She, was already knee-deep inside the water, the board of his boat already engulfed in Bailing Lake. Although his face was full of panic, he didn't call for help. Possibly frightened, rigid, without hesitation, Wei Wuxian bent down and stretched his arm out, grabbing Su She's wrist and pulling him up. Having added another person, his sword under his feet dipped abruptly, but it continued to ascend. However, not long after, a strong force suddenly came from Su She, almost pulling Wei Wuxian off his sword. The lower part of Su She's body was already submerged in the black whirlpool lake. The whirlpool spun faster and faster, and his body also sunk deeper and deeper. There seemed to be something hiding underwater, holding onto his legs and pulling them down. Zhang Chang originally stood on his sandu and calmly ascended to about 70 meters above the surface of the lake. As he looked down, he dashed toward them with an annoyed expression. What are you doing now? The sucking force of the lake became stronger and stronger. Wei Wuxian's sword was superior in terms of agility, but inferior in terms of strength. He was almost weighed down to the point of hovering right above the surface of the lake. He steadied himself while using both of his hands to haul Su She and shouted, Can somebody come here to help? If I still can't pull him up, I'm gonna let go. Suddenly, Wei Wuxian felt his collar tighten. He was lifted into the air. He turned around to see Lan Wangji holding the back of his collar with one hand. Although Lan Wangji merely looked into another direction with an indifferent look, he and his sword carried the weight of 3 people and fought with the mysterious force of the lake at the same time. Moreover, their position was still rising at a steady pace. Zhang Chang was rather shocked. If I went down to pull Wei Wuxian before him using Sandu, I probably couldn't have ascended so quickly and steadily. Lan Wangji is only around my age. At this point, Wei Wuxian spoke. Lan Wangji, your sword's quite strong, is it? Thank you, but why did you pull my collar? Can't you hold on to me? I don't feel comfortable if you do this. Why don't I stretch my hand to you and you can grab it? Lan Wangji spoke with a cold face. I do not have physical contact with others. Wei Wuxian, we're already this familiar with each other. How am I others? Lan Wangji, we are not. Wei Wuxian pretended to be hurt. You can't do this. Zhang Chang really couldn't hold it anymore. He scolded, "You can't do this! You can't speak a few sentences less while you're held in mid-air by your collar?" The group traveled on their swords in evacuating Bailing Lake as fast as they could. When they landed, Lan Wangji let go of Wei Wuxian's back collar and calmly turned to Lan Zichen. "It is a waterborne abyss." Lan Zichen shook his head. "Then this is going to be difficult." As they heard the name Waterborne Abyss, Wei Wuxian and Zhang Chang understood immediately. The scariest part about Bailing Lake wasn't the water ghouls, but it was the water which flowed in it. Because of reasons such as terrain or currents, some rivers or lakes often encountered sinking ships and drowning people. As time went on, the area of water could develop a personality. It was like a spoiled young mistress who couldn't tolerate a shortage of the luxurious lifestyle. If no boats or goods of living humans sunk into the water as sacrifices, it would stir up trouble and obtain them on its own. The people of Kai Town were all familiar with water, so sunken boats and drowning deaths rarely happened. It was impossible for a waterborne abyss to grow out of here. Now that one had appeared here, there was only one possibility, that it had been chased here from someone else. Once a waterborne abyss emerged, it meant that the whole body of water would turn into a monster. It was extremely hard to get rid of, impossible to remove unless every single drop of water was taken out. All of the people, our goods which sunk were fished up, and riverbed was exposed to strong sunlight for a few years. Nevertheless, there was a method that could solve the immediate problem at the expense of others: to chase it to another river or pond and let it wreck somewhere else. Lan Wangji asked, "Recently, has there been any place which suffered from a waterborne abyss?" Lan Zichen pointed at the sky. He was pointing at nothing else but the sun. Wei Wuxian and Zhang Chang looked at each other, understanding it perfectly. It's the Qishan Wen sect. I've never tried to pronounce that properly. Among the cultivation world, there was a countless number of sects and clans exceeding the number of stars in the sky, and among these there was a titan which stood above the others without a debt, the Qishan Wen sect. The Wen sect used the sun as the motive of their clan, signifying that they could compete with the sun for radiances, match the sun in longevity. Its sect residence was quite large, almost comparable to a city. It was named the Nightless Sky. Not Nightless City? Oh, wait. It was also called the Nightless Celestial City. Okay, there it is. Because it was said that there were no nightfall in the city. It could be described as a titan for the fact that no matter in terms of the number of disciples, power, land, or magical tools, there were no other families which could compare to it. A great deal of cultivators took being a foreign disciple to the Wen sect as a supreme honor. Based on the Wen sect style of doing things, it was highly possible that the waterborne abyss in Kai Town was chased here by them. Although they knew where the waterborne abyss came from, everyone grew silent. If it was done by the people of the Wen sect, then there would be no result no matter how hard they accused or criticized. First of all, the sect wouldn't admit it, and second, there wouldn't be any compensation either. One disciple complained, "Kai Town will be seriously harmed with that sect having chased the waterborne abyss over. If the waterborne abyss grows larger and expands into the river paths in the town, all those people's lives would be up to the monster. This is so..." If it became responsible for the problem passed to them by someone else, the Gusu Lan sect would definitely face countless troubles. Lan Zichen sighed. Let it down, let us go back to the town." They boarded new boats at the crossing point and padded toward an area of town where a lot of people gathered. After passing the arch bridge and entering the river paths, Wei Wuxian started to go at it again, abandoning his paddle. He put one foot... Oh my god. He put one foot on the side of his boat. Side of his boat, and looked into his reflection in the water, examining if his hair was messed up. As if he didn't just catch a ton of water ghouls and escaped from the mouth of the waterborne abyss. Wei Wuxian assuredly threw a series of charming winks at both sides of the paths. "Sisters, how much for a kilogram of loquats? I think it's loquats. I don't know. His age was young, and his appearance was handsome. With such high spirits, it really was a scene of frivolous peach blossoms pursuing the running stream. One woman lifted her bamboo hat, smiling with her head raised. "Young beau, you needn't pay. How about I give you one for free?" The Wu dialect was soft, sounding refreshing and sweet. The speaker's lips moved melodiously, and the listener's ears would be enveloped in fragrance. Wei Wuxian cupped his hands together. "If it's given to me by sister, then I definitely want it." The woman put her hand into the basket and threw him a round golden loquat. You needn't be such polite. It's for how handsome you look." The boats moved at a fast pace, and as the two boats met, they immediately passed each other. Wei Wuxian turned around, perfectly catching it, and grinned. "Sister looks even prettier." As he showed off and flirted on the side, Lan Wangji was staring straight ahead, appearing quite virtuous. Wei Wuxian smugly tossed the loquat in his hand and suddenly pointed at him. "Sisters, do you think that he is handsome?" Lan Wangji didn't expect Wei Wuxian to suddenly talk about him at all. Just as he was unsure of how to respond, the woman in the river spoke in harmony. "Even more handsome!" Amid this, there seemed to be the laughter of a few men. Wei Wuxian spoke. "Then does anyone want to give him one? If you only give me one and not him, I'm afraid he might be jealous when we go back." Chirp-like laughter echoed through the whole river. Another woman came from in front of them, standing on her butt. Okay, you get two. Heads up, young beau, catch." After the second one landed in his hand, Wei Wuxian shouted, "Sister, you're not only pretty, but you're nice as well. Next time I come here, I'm gonna buy a whole basket." The woman's voice was vibrant, and she was even more daring than the others. She pointed at Lan Wangji. "Get him to come as well. You can all come here and get them." Wei Wuxian held the loquat in front of Lan Wangji's eyes. Lan Wangji didn't move his gaze. "Move." And so Wei Wuxian moved it away. I knew that you definitely wouldn't accept it, so I never intended to give it to you. Zhang Chang, catch! Just then, the boat which Zhang Chang was on whirred past, and he caught the loquat in one hand. Smile appearing on his face, but immediately snorted. "You're being all flirty again?" Wei Wuxian smirked, proud of his success. "Get lost!" Then he turned around and asked, "Lanjan, you're from Gusu, so you know how to speak in this dialect, right? Teach me, how do you swear in the Gusu dialect?" Lan Wangji threw a pathetic at him and got on another boat. Wei Wuxian didn't expect him to really answer, he just wanted to tease him. After hearing the amusingly soft Gusu dialect and thinking that Lan Wangji also spoke this dialect when he was young, after raising his head to swallow another gulp of rice wine, he carried the plump, jet-black jar in one hand, picked up the paddle, and charged over to beat up Zhang Chang. On the other hand, Lan Wangji stood side by side to Lan Zichen. This time, even their expressions were similar. Both looked as if they were preoccupied by troubles as they thought about things such as how to deal with the waterborne abyss and what to say to the mayor of Kaiyi Town. An extremely heavy boat came in front of them, filled with buckets of large golden loquats. Lan Wangji took one glance at it and continued to look straight ahead. Yet Lan Zichen spoke to him. "If you want to eat loquats, should we buy one basket?" Lan Wangji went off with a flick of his sleeve. "I do not." He went to stand on another boat. He's so cute. Okay. Huh. Interesting. Is it going? Okay. Yep. This is the last chapter for today. And then hopefully I will stream again soon. Because it's been, 3 weeks since I did the first part? Look, this chapter includes fan art. That's so nice. And this is a half hour. The estimated reading time on this chapter is a half an hour. Ooh, okay. I'm gonna take a drink of water. Okay. Wei Wuxian bought a bunch of quirky gadgets in Kaiyi Town and took them back to the cloud recesses. After he arrived, everything was shared between the disciples from the other sects. Because Lan Qiren went to Qinghe, there was no need for classes for a few days. All of the boys played around in complete chaos, rushing into Wei Wuxian and Zhang Chang's room to sleep there. All through the nights, they ate, drank, wrestled, gambled, and viewed picture books. During one of the nights, Wei Wuxian lost in a game of dice and was sent to sneak down the mountain to buy a jar of Emperor's Smile. This time, everyone finally had the chance to satisfy their taste buds. However, on the second day, before daylight even appeared, someone opened the door of the room, revealing the disciples who had spread out on the floor in a tangle, sleeping as if they were a group of corpses. The noise from the opening door startled a few people as they saw the stone-faced Lan Wangji at the door through their sleepy eyes. They were instantly waken up. Ni Huaisang furiously pushed Wei Wuxian, who ended up in a position with his legs up at the top and head at the bottom. Wei Zhang! Wei Zhang! After being shoved a few times, Wei Wuxian spoke drowsily. Who? Is there anyone else up for it? Chang, the fight is on. Like I'm scared of you. Chang drank too much last night. His head still ached as he lay on the ground with his eyes closed. He randomly grabbed something and hurled it at where Wei Wuxian's voice came from. Shut up! The object landed on Wei Wuxian's chest, its pages flipping open. Ni Huaisang eyed it only to find that the item Chang used to hit Wei Wuxian was one of his treasured, out-of-print, illustrated pornography books. As he looked up and saw Lan Wangji's frigid gaze, he almost died on the spot. Wei Wuxian mumbled a few sentences, hugging the book to his chest, and went to sleep again. Lan Wangji slipped into the room. He used one hand to grip Wei Wuxian's back collar, lifted it up, and dragged him in the direction of the door. After a few puzzled moments, he was carried by Lan Wangji. He was finally half awake. He turned around. Lan Shan, what are you doing? Lan Wangji didn't say any words, continuing to drag him forward. Wei Wuxian spoke a bit more, along with the lying corpses on the ground who gained consciousness one after another. Seeing that Wei Wuxian was caught by Lan Wangji again, he hurried outside and asked, What's happening? What are you doing? Lan Wangji turned his head, speaking one word at a time, to receive his punishment. Chang had a slow reaction from his sleep and drinking too much, so he just remembered the mess of the floor in the room. Recalling that they broke countless number of sect rules in the cloud recesses last night, his face immediately froze. Lan Wangji dragged Wei Wuxian to the front of the Lan sect's ancestral hall. There were already a few older disciples of the Lan sect waiting there, 8 in total. Of them, 4 carried discipline rulers made of sandalwood, which were extremely long in length, having numerous square-shaped characters carved into them. It was a solemn-looking, serene scene indeed. As Lan Wangji dragged the person over, 2 of them immediately came up, firmly holding Wei Wuxian in place. Wei Wuxian half knelt on the ground, being allowed no room for struggle. Lan Zhan, are you going to punish me? Lan Wangji stared at him coldly, maintaining his silence. Wei Wuxian spoke. I won't accept this. At this point, the boys who had woken up also rushed over. They were blocked outside the ancestral hall, not allowed to go in. They scratched their heads, scared speechless from seeing the discipline ruler. Then, however, Lan Wangji lifted the bottom of his white clothes and knelt down beside Wei Wuxian. Seeing this, Wei Wuxian turned pale with fear. He tried to get up, but Lan Wangji commanded, Strike! Wei Wuxian gaped with astonishment. He hurriedly spoke, Wait, actually, I accept this, Lan Zhan, I was wrong, ah! The palms and legs of both of them received about 100 strikes of the discipline ruler. Lan Wangji didn't need anyone to hold him down. His back was upright and kneeling position stayed proper for the whole duration. On the other hand, Wei Wuxian wailed and howled out without holding back at all, making the disciples watch the scene cringe from imagining the pain. After the beating finished, Lan Wangji silently stood up and walked outside after saluting towards the disciples in the ancestral hall, showing no evidence that he had been injured. Wei Wuxian was the exact opposite. After he was carried onto Zhang Chang's bag, he groaned for the whole way. The youths all surrounded them, asking, Wei Zhang, what in the world happened? It's understandable for Lan Zhan to punish you, but why did he also get the beating? Wei Wuxian sighed, leaning on Zhang Chang's back. What a miscalculation. It's a long story. Zhang Chang spoke. Cut the crap. What on earth did you do? Wei Wuxian answered, I didn't do anything. Last night, didn't I lose the game of dice and go down to buy some Emperor's Smile? Zhang Chang, don't tell me you met him again. Wei Wuxian, that's actually it. Who knew that I was wrong with my luck? When I carried the jars of Emperor's Smile up and came up here, he stopped right in front of me again. I'm doubting that maybe he really watches me every single day. Not everyone has so not everyone has so much time on their hands. What happened next? Wei Wuxian. And then I said hello to him again. I said, Lanzhan, what a coincidence, it's you again. Of course, he ignored me again. His hand came at me without any words. I said, hey, what's the use of doing this? He said that if a guest disciple violates the curfew so many times, they need to go to the Lanzek's Ancestral Hall to receive their punishment. And I said, there's only 2 of us here. If you don't say it, and I don't say it, then nobody would know whether or not I violated the curfew, right? I promise that there's no next time. We're already this familiar with each other, so can't you do me a small favor? Everyone looked as if they couldn't bear to listen any longer. Wei Wuxian continued. In the end, he said that we weren't familiar with a long face, grabbed his sword, and charged over. He paid no heed to our friendship whatsoever, so I could only put down the Emperor's smile and start passing a few moves. His attacks were fast and chased after me so close that I couldn't even throw him off. Eventually, I was really annoyed from him chasing me. I asked, are you really not gonna let me go, huh? He still said, take your punishment. The boys were filled with the thrill of the story, and Wei Wuxian was enraptured as he spoke. He forgot the fact that he was still in Zhang Cheng's back and gave Zhang Cheng's shoulder a hard smack. I said, fine. Then I stopped dodging, I threw myself over, clung to him, and plummeted outside the wall of the cloud recesses. Wei Wuxian. And so the 2 of us fell outside the area of the cloud recesses together. It was such a bad fall that I saw stars before my eyes. Nihue-san was dumbstruck. He didn't break free? Wei Wuxian replied, oh, he did try. But with me locking him in with my arms and legs, he couldn't break free, even though he wanted to. Unable to even get up from my body, he was as hard as a board. I said, how about this, Lanzhan? Now, you're also outside of the cloud recesses. We both broke the curfew, and you can't be harsh towards others and loose toward yourself. If you've punished me, you'd have to punish yourself as well. Equal treatment. How does that sound? Wei Wuxian. After he got up, he looked like he really wasn't in a good mood. I sat on the side and told him not to worry, that I won't tell anyone else, and that the only ones who knew about this was the sky and the earth and the 2 of us. And then he walked off without saying anything. Who knew that he'd do something like this in the morning? Chang, walk slower, you're almost shaking me off. Chang wanted to not only shake him off, but even more so, to make a few man-shaped dents in the ground by slamming his head down. Is simply carrying you not up to your standards? Wei Wuxian, I never asked you to carry me in the beginning. Chang was enraged. If I don't carry you, you'd probably stay in the Ancestral Hall and roll on the ground all day long. I don't have that thick of a face to lose. Lan Wangji even had 50 more strikes than you, and he even walked by himself. Yet you have the nerve to pretend that you're crippled. I don't want to carry you anymore. Get off now. Wei Wuxian, no, I'm wounded! The group joked around the narrow path made of white stones. They walked right into a person in white robes holding a book as he passed by. Lan Zichen stopped with wonder and smiled. What's going on here? Chang felt extremely awkward, not knowing how to reply. Nihue-san answered before him. Zichen-ge, Wei Zhang was punished with more than 100 strikes of the ruler. Is there any medicine? The person responsible for punishment in the cloud recesses was Lan Wangji. With Wei Wuxian pained cries amid the group which surrounded him, it appears as if his condition was extremely severe. Lan Zichen immediately came up to them. Was this done by Wangji? Is young Master Wei still able to walk? What in the world happened? Of course, Zhang didn't dare to say that Wei Wuxian was at fault. Thinking back, it was them who urged Wei Wuxian to buy liquor. Each and every one of them should have been punished. He could only speak in a vague way. It's fine. It's not that serious. He can walk. Wei Wuxian, why are you still up there? Wei Wuxian spoke. I can't walk. He raised his red palms, which were swollen a few sizes larger, and complained to Lan Zichen. Seiwu Jun, your younger brother's so cruel. Lan Zichen examined his palms. Yes, the punishment is quite severe indeed. It is likely that the swelling will not subside until 3 or 4 days. Zhang really didn't know that the beating was so severe. He exclaimed, What? Not after 3 or 4 days? His legs and his back were also hit by the discipline rulers. How can Lan Wangji do this? He spoke the last sentence with resentment in spite of himself, and he only realized it after Wei Wuxian secretly smacked him. However, Lan Zichen didn't mind at all. He smiled. Nevertheless, it is not severe enough to require medication. Young Master Wei, let me tell you a way for your injuries to be healed in just a few hours. It was nighttime at the cold spring of the cloud recesses. Lan Wangji's eyes were closed as he relaxed in the ice water. Suddenly, a voice rang beside his ears. Lan Zhan! Lan Wangji's eyes sprang open. Sure enough, Wei Wuxian was lying on his stomach above the blue stones beside the cold spring. Tilting his head and smiling at him, Lan Wangji blurted out, "How did you come in?" Wei Wuxian slowly crawled up and spoke as he took off his sash belt. "Zei Wujun told me to come in." Lan Wangji, "What are you doing?" Wei Wuxian kicked off his boots while leaving piles of clothing all over the ground. I already stripped, so what do you think I'm here for? I heard that your sex cold spring can cure injuries aside from helping with one's cultivation. So your brother told me to come here and bathe with you, except it's really not nice of you to come here to heal alone. Eeh, it's really cold. Ugh. He went into the water, rolling about due to the freezing water of the cold spring. Lan Wangji quickly distanced himself a few meters away from Wei Wuxian. I came here for cultivation purposes, not to heal. Do not leap around. Wei Wuxian spoke, but it's so cold, This time, he didn't intend to emphasize or cause trouble. It was true that most people couldn't become used to the Gusulan sex cold spring in a short amount of time, feeling as if their bodies and blood would freeze if they stayed still for just a few moments, so he could only jump around, intending to warm his body from the movement. Lan Wangji was originally meditating in peace, but with the Wei Wuxian jumping about, a few splashes of water was thrown on his face, a few droplets trickled down his long lashes and ink-black hair. It was beyond his endurance. Do not move. As he spoke, he extended an arm and put his hand on Wei Wuxian's shoulder. Wei Wuxian instantly felt a surge of warmth coming from where their bodies connected. Feeling better, he couldn't help but to shift closer over to where Lan Wangji was. Over there, Lan Wangji was wary of this. What? Wei Wuxian replied in an innocent tone. Nothing. It seems like your side is warmer. Lan Wangji firmly kept his arm between the two of them, maintaining the distance. He sternly declared, "It is not." Wei Wuxian wanted to get close to Lan Wangji so that it was more convenient for him to flatter the other. Even though he couldn't go over and was given the cold shoulder, he wasn't angered at all. He glanced at Lan Wangji's palms and shoulder. The bruises were still there, meaning that Lan Wangji really wasn't here to heal. Wei Wuxian spoke sincerely. Lan Zhan, I admire you so much. You really did punish yourself as well, without treating yourself any better. I don't have anything else to say. Lan Wangji shut his eyes again without any words. Wei Wuxian spoke again. Really, I've never seen someone as prim and proper as you. It'd be impossible for me to do something like this. You're so cool. Lan Wangji still paid him no attention. After Wei Wuxian stopped feeling cold, he started to swim around the cold spring. He swam for a while, but still went near Lan Wangji. Lan Zhan, didn't you notice what I was doing when I talked to you? Lan Wangji, I do not. Wei Wuxian, you don't even know about this? I was complimenting you, trying to become more casual with you. Lan Wangji glanced at him. What do you want to do? Wei Wuxian, Lan Zhan, why don't we become friends? We're already so familiar. Lan Wangji, we are not. Wei Wuxian slapped the surface of the water. Now, you're being boring again. Really, there are lots of benefits if you become friends with me. Lan Wangji, for example? Wei Wuxian swam near the edge of the spring and leaned back with his arms on the blue rocks. I'm always really loyal towards my friends. For example, I'd definitely let you be the first person to look at the new porn that I get hold of. Hey, come back. It's fine if you don't look at them. Have you been to Yunmeng? Yunmeng's really fun. Yunmeng's food is also good. I don't know if it's Gusu's or the Cloud Recesses problem, but the food in your sector is so bad. If you come back to Lotus Pier, you can eat lots of delicious food. I can take you to pick lotus seed pods and water chestnuts. Lan Zhan, do you want to come? Lan Wangji, no. Wei Wuxian, don't answer everything with negative words. You sound so uncaring. Girls won't like it. Let me tell you, the girls in Yunmeng look very pretty. Different from the sort of pretty in Gusu. He winked his left eye at Lan in a proud way. You sure you don't want to come? Lan Wangji hesitated but still replied, no. Wei Wuxian, rejecting me without giving me any respect. Aren't you scared that I'd conveniently take away your clothes when I leave? Lan Wangji, get lost. After Lan Qiren left Jinghe and returned to Gusu, he didn't make Wei Wuxian go to the library pavilion to copy Lan's sex rules again, but simply, there you have really weird transitions between scenes going on here. It's not very clear. Anyways, He didn't make Wei Wuxian go to the library pavilion to copy the Lansec's rules anymore, again, but simply gave him a harsh scolding in front of everyone. Without the parts where he quoted ancient scriptures, it all boiled down to how he had never seen someone so unruly and shameless before. So please get lost as far as possible. Please don't go near the other pupils, and especially refrain from tainting his favorite one, Lan Wangji. As he scolded, Wei Wuxian only grinned while listening, feeling no humiliation or anger at all. Immediately after Lan Qiren left, Wei Wuxian sat down and spoke to Zhang Zhang. Don't you think that it's a bit too late telling me to get lost now? He only told me to get lost after I finished tainting his favorite person. It's too late. The waterborne abyss in Kaiyi Town created a great deal of trouble for the Gusulan sect. It was impossible to completely destroy it, and the Lan sect couldn't chase it to somewhere else like the Wen sect did. The sect leader of the Lan sect was secluded in meditation most of the time, so Lan Qiren used all his energy on this matter. Ugh. Oh, shoot. Well... hang on. I'm glad. Okay. So, my sister did respond now. Steps. Cool. I like having timestamps for messages. I stopped in the middle of, like, a sentence. But, the person I am doing this for actually responded to me, so I had to respond to her. Where was I? Let's see. Okay, Lan Qiren used all of his energy on this matter. With the lessons becoming shorter and shorter, Wei Wuxian's time spent with his friends in the mountains became longer and longer. Today, Wei Wuxian intended on going outside with a group of 7 or 8 people again. As they passed the Lan sect's library pavilion, he looked through the drape of magnolia branches. Oh. I like knowing that there's a magnolia tree there because I associate that scent. I associate the smell of magnolias with Lan Wangji. And I feel validated in that now. That makes me happy. Hang on a second. Give me. God, this computer runs slowly. Okay. Nihua Song spoke in a puzzled tone. Is he looking at us? That's strange. We didn't make too much noise, so why is he still looking at us like that? Wei Wuxian. He's probably thinking of how to find faults with us. Zhang Zhang interrupted. Wrong? Wrong. Not us, but me. I think the person he's watching is you. Wei Wuxian. Just let him wait. I'll deal with him after I get back. Zhang Zhang. Don't you dislike how he's boring and how he's not fun? Then you should stop teasing him. This is like pulling whiskers from a tiger's mouth. Stop looking for your own death. Wei Wuxian replied, No, it's exceptionally fun, precisely because how a living person can be so not fun. They only returned to the cloud recesses when the time almost reached noon. Lan Wangji sat before the desk, organizing the stack of paper which he wrote on. As heard a creaking noise coming from the window. He looked up to see someone hop inside. Wei Wuxian came up by climbing the magnolia tree outside of the library pavilion. His face was beaming. Lanzhan, I'm back! Did you miss me? Huh? Without me copying text for these past few days? Lan Wangji seemed like an old monk in a state of meditation, seeing everything as nothing. He even continued to organize the pile of books with a numb expression. Wei Wuxian deliberately misinterpreted his silence. I know, even if you don't say it, that you definitely miss me, or else, earlier on, why did you look at me through the window? Lan Wangji immediately shot him a glance, his eyes full of silent accusations. Wei Wuxian sat atop the windowsill. Look at you, rising to the bait after just a few sentences. You're so easy to catch. This way you won't be able to maintain your composure. Lan Wangji, you leave. Wei Wuxian, if I don't leave, will you throw me down? Looking at Lan Wangji's face, Wei Wuxian suspected that if he spoke one more sentence, Lan Wangji would really abandon the small amount of self-restraint he had left and nail him onto the window at once. Wei Wuxian quickly added, Don't be so scary, I'm here to apologize by giving you a present. Lan Wangji refused at once, without thinking about it. No. Wei Wuxian, are you sure? Seeing that a guarded look leaked from Lan Wangji's eyes, he fished out 2 rabbits from his arms, as if he was performing a magic trick. As he held onto them by their ears, it seemed like he was holding onto 2 round, chubby snowballs. The snowballs even kicked their legs around. He lifted them in front of Lan Wangji's eyes. It's actually quite strange here. There aren't any pheasants, but there are lots of wild rabbits. They aren't even scared of people. What do you think? Are they fat? Do you want them? Lan Wangji stared at him indifferently. Wei Wuxian, fine, if you don't want them, I'm gonna give them to other people. We aren't having much flavors in our mouths anyways. After he heard the last sentence, Lan Wangji spoke. Stop. Wei Wuxian extended his arms. I'm not going anywhere. Lan Wangji, who are you giving them to? Wei Wuxian answered, I'm gonna give them to whoever is good at roasting rabbit meat. Lan Wangji, killing is forbidden in the cloud recesses. It is the 3rd rule on the wall of rules. Wei Wuxian, fine, then I'll go down the mountain, kill it outside, and then bring it back to roast it. You don't want it anyway, so why do you care so much? Lan Wangji spoke one word at a time. Give it to me. Wei Wuxian grinned on the windowsill. Now you want it? Look at you, you're always like this. Both of these rabbits were chubby and round, appearing to 2 balls made of fluffy snowflakes. One had bleary eyes and lay on its stomach, remaining motionless after a long while, as it chewed on the lettuce. Its pink mouth moved in a leisurely manner. The other one seemed as if it was actually a cricket, constantly hopping up and down. It played around with its companion, wiggling and leaping nonstop. Wei Wuxian tossed over a few pieces of lettuce, which he took out of nowhere. He suddenly called, Lanzhan! Lanzhan! The energetic rabbit had stepped on Lan Wangji's inkstone and left a line of black footsteps on the desk. Lan Wangji was unsure of what to do, holding a piece of paper, and considered different ways to wipe it off. He didn't want to pay Wei Wuxian any attention, but hearing the exaggerated tone, he thought that there might be an issue. What? Wei Wuxian looked at how one is on top of the other. Are they... Did they really? They added art for that? What? Okay. Lan Wangji, both of those are male. Wei Wuxian, male? How weird. He lifted by the ears and examined them and confirmed, they really are male. Well, then, I didn't even finish my sentence. Why are you so stern? What are you thinking of? Now that I think about it, I was the one who caught them and didn't even notice whether they were male or female, but you even looked at their... Lan Wangji finally threw him down the library pavilion. Wei Wuxian laughed while midair. With a bang, Lan Wangji slammed the window closed and stumbled back to the desk. As he swept a look at the messy piles of rice paper and ink paw prints on the ground, as well as the 2 white rabbits which rolled around while dragging pieces of lettuce leaves, he closed his eyes and covered his ears. The clusters of quivering magnolia branches were shut outside the window, yet no matter how hard he resisted, he couldn't shut out Wei Wuxian's vibrant, unrestrained laughter. On the 2nd day, Lan Wangji finally stopped having classes with them. Wei Wuxian's seat changed 3 times. He originally sat beside Zhang Chang, but Zhang Chang paid attention to the lessons and sat in the front row in order to look good for the Yunmangjiang sect. This position was too conspicuous, allowing Wei Wuxian no room to fool around, so he abandoned Zhang Chang and sat behind Lan Wangji. When Lan Qiren was teaching in the front, Lan Wangji sat as straight as a wall and made of iron. Behind him, Wei Wuxian would either sleep like a log or draw scribbles as he pleased. Aside from Lan Wangji occasionally blocking the crumpled pieces of paper he threw towards other people, it was an excellent place to be at. However, as soon as Lan Qiren became aware of this trick, so he switched their seats. Ever since then, whenever Wei Wuxian's sitting posture became a bit tilted, he could feel a cold, sharp gaze staring at his back. Lan Qiren would throw him a glowering look. It was extremely uncomfortable for him to be monitored by the old one and the young one all at the same time. Moreover, after the pornography case and the rabbit case, Lan Qiren was certain that Wei Wuxian was a basin full of jet black dye, and feared that his favorite pupil would be stained, which is why he hastened to tell Lan Wangji to stop going to lessons. And so, Wei Wuxian sat back in his old spot, and half a month of peace followed. Unfortunately, the good things never lasted long for someone like Wei Wuxian. In the cloud recesses, there was a long wall. Every 7 steps, there would be a hollowed-out window with intricate designs. All the designs were different, playing an instrument amid tall mountains, flying in the air on a sword, fighting monsters and beasts, and so on. Lan Qiren explained that the designs of every hollowed-out window on this wall was about the life of each ancestor of the Gusu Lan sect. The oldest and most famous 4 windows told the life of the founder of the Lan sect, Lan An. This founder was born in a temple. He grew up listening to the chanting of sutras, and thus became a famous monk at a very young age. At the age of 20, he used the Lan from Qi Lan as his last name, and resumed the worldly life, becoming a musician. During his path of cultivation, he met the fated person he searched for in Gusu, became cultivation partners with her, and founded the Lan sect. After his partner passed away, he returned to the temple and ended his life there. 4 windows were Qilan, Qiyu, Daolu, and Guiji. During these past few days, the lessons seldom involved a topic as interesting as this. Although Lan Qiren introduced it with boring timelines, Wei Wuxian absorbed the knowledge for once. After class, he laughed. So, the founder of the Lan sect was a monk. No wonder! He ventured into the moral world to meet one person, and as soon as she went, he went as well, leaving nothing behind on this earth. But why would a person like him produce such unromantic descendants? Since nobody expected the Lan sect, which was famous for being orthodox, to have such a founder, they started to chat amongst themselves. As they chatted, the center of the conversation tipped toward the direction of cultivation partners, and they started to discuss cultivation partners of their dreams, evaluating the well-known girls in different sects. At this point, someone asked, Zixuan Zhang, who do you think is the best girl? As Wei Wuxian and Zhang Zhang heard this, they both looked toward a boy in the front row of the classroom. The boy had proud, handsome features with a vermilion mark on his forehead. His collar, cuffs, and sash belt all had the white peony named Sparks amid snow sewn on. This was the young master sent to study in Gusu from the Lanling Jin sect, Jin Zixuan. Another person spoke. It's best for you not to ask Jin Zixuan Zhang about this. He's already got a fiancé, so his answer would definitely be his fiancé. Hearing the word fiancé, Jin Zixuan's lips seemed to twitch, showing a slight expression of displeasure. The disciple, who was actually quite oblivious, continued with a cheerful face. Really? Which sect is she from? She must be extremely talented. Jin Zixuan raised a brow. Forget it. Wei Wuxian suddenly spoke. What do you mean by forget it? Everyone in the room looked at him with surprise. Usually Wei Wuxian was always grinning. He had never really been angered, even when he was scolded or punished, yet at the moment there was an obvious streak of hostility on his face. Zhang Zhang didn't criticize Wei Wuxian either for making it terrible out of nothing, as he usually did. He simply sat beside him with a dark face. Jin Zixuan spoke in an arrogant tone. Is the phrase "forget it" too difficult to understand? Wei Wuxian smiled sardonically. The phrase isn't too hard to understand. Instead, it's hard to understand how on earth you're unsatisfied with my Shiji. Everyone whispered to one another. They only understood after the exchange of words that they had accidentally stirred up a hornet's nest. Jin Zixuan's fiancé happened to be Zhang Yanli of the Yunming Zhang sect. Zhang Yanli was the oldest child of Zhang Fengmen and Zhang Cheng's older sister. Her personality was mild with nothing too notable. Her voice was smooth with nothing too memorable. Her appearance was only above average. You know, fuck this description. Fuck this description. It is incorrect. Amid the girls from the other prominent clans, it was only natural that she seemed a bit average. No. On the other hand, her fiancé Jin Sixuan was the exact opposite. He was the only son of he was the only official son of Jin Guangshan with outstanding looks and exceptional talents. According to common sense, with Jiang Yanli's conditions, it was true that they weren't well matched with each other. She wasn't even qualified enough to compete with the other girls. The only reason why Jiang Yanli was able to enter the engagement with Jin Sixuan was because her mother was from Mianqin Yu sect, and the Mianqin Yu sect was quite friendly with the sect leader Jin Sixuan's mother was from. The two madams grew up together, and they had a close relationship. The ways of the Jin sect were proud, and Jin Sixuan inherited every single drop of this. With his high standards, he had been unsatisfied with this engagement since a long time ago. He was not only unsatisfied with the candidate, but even more so unsatisfied with her mother, taking the liberty to decide for him, making him grow more and more rebellious at heart. Today, he took the opportunity to break out. Jin Sixuan asked in reply, "Why don't you ask me how on earth I can be satisfied with her?" Jiang Chang instantly stood up. Pushing him to the side, Wei Wuxian walked in front of him and sneered. "You sure think that you're pretty satisfying, don't you? Where do you get the guts to be all choosy here?" Because of this engagement, Jin Sixuan had no positive impressions of the Yunmeng Zhang sect and had frowned upon Wei Wuxian's behavior since a long time ago. On top of that, he boasted himself to be unrivaled amongst the juniors without ever having been looked down upon like this. All of the blood in his body rose to his head and he blurted out, "If she's unsatisfied, then tell her to get rid of this engagement. In conclusion, I don't care for your Shiji. If you care for her, ask her father about it. Doesn't he treat you better than treating his own child or something?" Hearing the last sentence, Jiang Chang's eyes stiffened with an uncontrollable anger. Wei Wuxian rushed over and sent out a punch. Although Jin Sixuan was prepared, he didn't expect Wei Wuxian to attack so quickly. Before he even finished his sentence, having suffered one punch, half of his face numbed, he immediately struck back without speaking a word. This fight startled both of the two prominent sects. On the same day, Jiang Fengmen and Jin Guangshan hastened to Gusu from Yunmeng and Lanling. After the two sect leaders went to see the two, who were punished to kneel and receive a severe scolding from Lan Qiren, they wiped some of the sweat from their foreheads and started to engage in small talk. Jiang Fengmen soon brought up the idea of canceling the engagement. He told Jin Guangshan, "Ali's mother was the one who insisted on having the engagement in the first place, and I didn't agree. Looking at it now, neither of them are keen. It's best if we don't force it." Jin Guangshan was shocked. He felt a bit hesitant, as it was never a good thing to end an engagement with another prominent sect, no matter how he looked at it. He responded, "What do the children know? They can play around however they want to. Fengmen Zhang, you and I don't need to pay them any attention." Jiang Fengmen, "Jin Zhang, although we can set the engagement for them, we can't carry out the marriage in place of them. After all, they are the ones who will be spending the rest of their lives together." This engagement had never been the intention of Jin Guangshan. If he wanted to strengthen his sect's power by a marriage with another sect, the Yunmeng Zhang sect was neither the only choice nor the best choice. It was only that he had never dared to go against Madame Jin. Anyhow, this was initially proposed by the Zhang sect. Since the Jin sect was the husband's side, they didn't have as many concerns as the wife's side, so what was the point of worrying over it? Moreover, he knew that Jin Sixuan had always been resentful toward Jiang Yanli's status as his fiancée. After some consideration, Jin Guangshan conjured up the courage and agreed to this matter. At this time, Wei Wuxian still didn't know that what this fight broke up, as he knelt on the stone path that Lan Qiren assigned to him. From a distance, Jiang Chang approached with a sneer on his face. "Look at how well behaved you are, kneeling so properly." Wei Wuxian was gloating. "Of course, I kneel all the time, but Jin Zixuan is a spoiled brat, so he definitely never knelt before. If I don't make him kneel to the point that he cries for his parents, my last name won't be Wei anymore." Jiang Chang lowered his head, pausing for a few moments and spoke in a soft voice. Father came. Father came. Wei Wuxian. "Shiji didn't come, did she?" Jiang Chang. "Why would she come? To see how you lost face for her? If she did come, she would not come to your side and bring... If she came, would she not come to your side and bring you medicine?" Wei Wuxian sighed. "It'd be nice if Shiji came. It's fortunate that you didn't hit him." Jiang Chang. "I was going to, if you didn't push me to the other side of Jin Zhuan." If you didn't push me, the other side of Jin Xuan's face would have also been ruined. Wei Wuxian, nah, he looks uglier right now with an unsymmetrical face. I heard that he values his face a lot, like a peacock. I wonder what he'd think after looking into a mirror. After rolling on the ground with laughter, Wei Wuxian spoke again. Actually, I should have let you hit him, and I should have watched on the side. This way, maybe Uncle Zhang wouldn't have come. But there was no choice. I couldn't help it. Zhang Chang humped lightly. You wish. Although it was only Wei Wuxian's casual world, he held mixed feelings, because he knew that this wasn't a lie. Jiang Fengman had never hurried to another sect in one day for anything related to him, no matter if the issue was good or bad, large or small. Never. As Wei Wuxian saw his melancholy face, he thought that he was still annoyed at Jin Szechuan's words. You should go. You don't need to stay with me. If Lan Wangji comes again, you'd be caught by him. If you have time, go visit Jin Szechuan and look at how idiotic he looks kneeling down. Zhang Chang was somewhat surprised. Lan Wangji? Why did he come? He still dared to come see you? Wei Wuxian replied, Yeah, I also thought that he should be praised for having the courage to come see me. He was probably told by his uncle to check if I was kneeling properly. Zhang Chang instinctively felt a foreboding sensation. Were you kneeling properly? Wei Wuxian, I was kneeling properly. After he was some distance away, I found a stick and started to dig at the dirt. The pile beside your foot. There's an anthole there that I went through tons of trouble to find. When he turned his head, he saw that my shoulders were shaking, and he definitely thought that I was crying. He even came back to ask me. You really should have seen his expression as he saw the anthole. Zhang Chang spoke. You should get lost and go back to Yunmeng as soon as possible. I don't think that he ever wants to see you again. And so, on that night, Wei Wuxian packed up his things and returned to Yunmeng with Jiang Fengman. Oh. Yep, here's an example of gay porn. Cool. Thanks. What? Wait, there's someone peeking in the window, too. Great. No, the ancient Chinese people have a strange art style. I don't think that's nice to say. But, you know, this is fine. When two cultivators marry and they cultivate together, they become cultivation partners. Some call this cultivation buddies. Pal. Friends, buddy. Sure, okay. And this is the end of the flashbacks, right? I just want to make sure. God, it's really loading slow. So, right? Yep. I don't know. Maybe I could keep reading a little bit. It's been 2 hours, right? Yeah, it's been 2 hours. So no, that's good. I think that's a good amount of time to read. So that's where we're gonna pick up back in the modern timeline. After this, what happens next? Other than the arm, they try and control it, and then they leave on their journey. They go to the knee area with the thing with the place that happens, right? I don't know how long I should try and read next time. I will figure it out. Well, not streaming. I'll see how long it takes to get to